This is Tweet Street Satirical Saltire, broadcasting to you for unoccupied Scotland, amplifying women's voices and saying women won't waste. This is Tweet Street Satirical Saltire, broadcasting to you for unoccupied Scotland, amplifying women's voices and saying women won't waste. Welcome along to Tweet Street Scotland Occupied, or Tweet Street Occupied Scotland, everyone. I'm Cinnamon Bridges, aka Peter. With me this evening, as usual, is my co-host JB Whitesnake. All right, John, how you doing, mate?
Not bad, Peter. Good to see you, pal.
Aye, good to see you as well, mate. Hope you're keeping well. Now, I know I'm really excited about the guest that we've got coming up, and I know that you've shared your excitement with me in the past. So I can't big up the man enough. It's none other than Tommy Sheridan. Hi, Tommy. How you doing, mate?
Peter, that's a lovely, kind words, brother. I appreciate that very much. I think we've all got a role to play in the big independence movement. I love my football. I see you've got your football jersey on, so I'm sure you love your football as well. And I always like to see the independence movement like a football team. And the reason I say that, Peter, is I think everybody has to recognise that not everybody can score the goals. Yep. You need a goalkeeper, you need a right back, you need people working in the midfield. And that, to me, is what will get us where we're wanting to go. So although you're bigging up things that I've done in the past, I happen to be a reasonably passionate and eloquent speaker, so I can do that type of thing. But there's other people who do loads of other types of things that I'm no good at in terms of the computers and communication and using the new technology. So people have to understand that we've all got a role to play in this movement. And I just wish there'd be a wee bit more recognition of that, because we're all soldiers in the Independence Army.
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more in actual fact. John, I'll let you ask Tommy some questions. I know that you probably have some lined up, mate. So on you go, buddy.
Yeah, I've made them quite topical today, Tommy. So start off with what you think of what's happening in Afghanistan, the collapse there, and the UK-US responsibilities here.
John, do you know, it's a complex area. There is absolutely no doubt about it. There is no simple yes and no ticking box type of answer. We're dealing with a country, and we're dealing with an awful lot of people whose lives are affected by what happens in that country. But my watch guard for all of this, my political compass for all of this, is we cannot be interfering in other countries' affairs. We cannot be invading other countries, as the West has done in Afghanistan, and, by the way, as the East done in Afghanistan. Let's remember that the first invasion was 79, when the Soviet Union rolled in the tanks. And some people argued that they rolled in the tanks because the Soviet Union said, well, Afghanistan was rolling back some of the progress that had happened there in terms of women's rights and an element of democracy and things like that. I'm sorry, I'm all for democracy, and absolutely we're all for women's rights, but that doesn't give any other country the right to invade another one. So it was wrong what the Soviet Union did, and of course then what the West did was even more wrong, because what they did, and most people unfortunately don't understand this, in my opinion, it's that's the mass media for you, but what they did was they created what we now call ISIS, what we all call the terrorists, when they armed and trained the Mujahideen on the basis of an ideological war that they couldn't give a damn about the consequences of, because the very people they trained in 79, 80, and who were called heroes by Reagan and Thatcher, were the same ones that planned the Twin Towers bombing in 2001 and have led an awful lot of the terrorist attacks across the Middle East. So it is hugely troublesome, John, but my biggest compass is we don't intervene. If a country attacks you, you know, if we're attacked by a country, then I think we've got a right, and certainly the UN Charter of Human Rights absolutely makes this clear. You have the right to defend yourself. But you know what? We don't have the right to invade other countries and interfere in other countries' affairs on the basis of political ideological differences. And I have to say that, John, because I absolutely detest America's role in Venezuela, in Bolivia, in Cuba. These are all political interventions that they have got absolutely no legal right to be involved in. So I can't very well condemn all that and then no condemn what's happening as far as their intervention in Afghanistan is concerned. That's not to be an apologist for the Taliban in any way, shape, or form, John. But you know what? See, democracy, if democracy means anything, then unfortunately, it means you're sometimes going to be landed with governments that you don't like. And that's what the US can't put up with, unfortunately. And they've got to learn that they're not the world's policemen because nobody elected them to be it.
Yeah, it's like I've been watching CNN today and a bit of Sky News, and it's like there's shades of Saigon going on there, helicopters getting out the embassy and such like. And I read a bit about Afghanistan saying that obviously nobody knows anything about it. It's very tribal and it's never been administered since the days of Genghis Khan. So this naive interpretation that you can transplant some sort of Western democracy in there over a 20-year period and then go out and set it not to fall apart within hours is farcical, and they share the blame for that, and they'll share the consequences for it as well. It's shocking what they've done, and a fear for the people in Afghanistan. The people who've suffered through 20 years of war are now going to find it even worse.
Well, the worst thing for me, John, is some of the hypocrisy in your CNN and your Sky News coverage. It's all of these tears for the people who are going to suffer. What about the people that suffered when they invaded and carpet bombed Afghanistan? What about the people who suffered in relation to Iraq? The 1 million Iraqis who died on the basis of a lie. Where are the crocodile tears for that? You know, it pisses me off big time that these people get away with their fork-tongued lies as far as concern for people. The only concern is economic concern. It's influence, it's oil, it's the idea of, oh, wait a wee minute, if we bomb Afghanistan to smithereens, then we can get all the American contractors to rebuild Afghanistan. Billions of pounds worth of contract. It's so hypocritical and horrible. They should get the hell out of Afghanistan, get the hell out of every other country they're in as well.
Syria, Libya, all these places
exactly,
as well.
Mate. Exactly, Paul.
Shocking.
Well, bringing it closer to home, guys, and talking about political ideologies, Tommy. There's a bit of as I said, just in the warm-up before we started recording, we've been the past couple of weeks talking about the trans issue, and over the past few days there was another sick blow, if you ask me, with regards to the trans issue, where it can be decided for a child of 4 years of age and up without their parents' consent by teachers at school. And just to get your thoughts on the overall picture, Tommy.
I was out walking with a couple of mates just the other day, Peter, and the three of us are independent supporters. One is still he can't stop being a Labour Party supporter. The other guy is an SNP voter, but he also voted Green with second vote in the last election. And to me, this mate of mine, John, he epitomised what I think happened at that election, because I then had a wee bit of a go at John. I said, John, you know, what are you doing voting Green? Why? That's a waste of vote. Why did you not give Alba your second vote and get a positive, proactive, pro-independence group of politicians elected to hold the SNP's feet to the fire? Because they're good in rhetoric, but they're no good in action. And we now see that, of course, 100 days gone, not a bloody tweet about bloody independence and taking the case forward. And John said to me, Tommy, I read some of the stuff online, and people have been attacking Alba and Alba candidates and saying that they're anti-transgender, right? And this is the bloody danger here. I'm not anti-transgender, and I'm sure you're not anti-transgender, because if you believe in Scottish independence, then you're probably left of centre politically. You probably believe in equality. You probably believe in fairness. You probably believe that asylum seekers trying to flee the bombs that the West drop in them deserve a wee bit of support and help, not condemnation and a fist of anger, but a hand of friendship instead. Those are the values I think underpin the independence movement. And the Equality Act 2010 makes it absolutely clear that there is legal recognition for anyone who wants to change gender, that goes through the process. I mean, this is a huge decision in somebody's life, a huge decision, and they should be supported. But they shouldn't be allowed to do something in the space of 3 months that changes their whole lives, and it's based on what they think and what they say. I am now a woman, you must recognise that. I'm sorry, that's not good enough for a decision of this magnitude. And what we've seen in this educational advice that's been distributed in relation to how to treat children who say that they're in the wrong gender and how we deal with that situation, I think it's a Pandora's box that's going to explode, Peter. I really, this is what, the reason I mentioned that discussion with my three mates is because we all agreed that so far, this discussion that we are having right now has been very, very secluded. It's very, very specialist. A lot of us who are interested in politics, we've been discussing it for months and sometimes years. I don't think the general population have caught up yet. No. And I think when they do, I think your average SNP voter, who, as I say, I think will be left of centre, all for equality, they don't support this self-identity that's been shoved down our throats. They don't support it. They think gender politics, in my opinion, is divisive, and they think it is not a priority. And I think they think that because they're right. Because most of us have got our priorities, which is our families, our homes, our jobs, our country. Those are our priorities. The idea that self-ID is something that should be at the top of the pile is complete utter nonsense, Peter. And I think the more people learn about this, the more SNP support is going to ebb away. And my worry is, and this is where we need to, I think, come together and be clear about this, the independence movement has to say, independence is not about the SNP. Independence is not about any one political party. Independence is about your future, it's about your children, it's about your country. It is bigger than all of those other smaller things, the individuals, the parties. And we can't allow the future SNP fall in support to affect support for independence. That's why there needs to be alternatives there, Peter. And personally, whether Alba comes up to the mark or no will remain to be seen. I'm looking forward to the conference in September. I'm a member. I'm going to go along there. And if it's a good left of centre party that's prepared to put independence front and centre and argue that that is the absolute prerequisite for recovering from COVID. Look at this push you're getting from the SNP. Let's recover from COVID, then we can have an independence referendum. I'm sorry, see if we can recover from COVID as part of the British Union. Why do you need independence?
Aye, Tommy.
You're giving the unionists, you're giving them a bloody carte blanche, you're giving them an own goal. Recover from COVID. Tackle the poverty, the inequality, the low wages, our care workers and our health service. You can't recover from COVID without independence. That's the point I think we've got to hammer home. And that's why it's wrong that these people have not put it at the top of their agenda in the first 100 days of the new government, despite having the cast iron democratic mandate for Indy Rev 2. That date should have been called already. We should be looking at next March or April. That should be the date and it should be called. We don't say to bloody Boris Johnson, is it all right? No, what we don't say that. We say to Boris Johnson, just to let you know, we're having in the F2 and it's going to take place next March. That's what a government worth its salt would be that actually believes in independence.
Well, I mean, I'm of the very same opinion, Tommy, and John and I, we've spoken about this for weeks and months, haven't we, John, about They seem to be a wee bit timid,
Yeah.
the SNP, and they don't want to be pushing things. And as you said
Yeah.
there, Tommy, it's about telling them and no asking them. So I think we should, especially with this government that's doing the RUK government and the half-wits that's in there. This is Scotland's best opportunity in over 300 years, in my opinion, to break free from them. And Nicola Sturgeon is doing anything but pushing the agenda. And I don't know if this trans issue and a lot of other things. I mean, the Craig Murray situation, Tommy. We'll come to you for your thoughts on that in a wee minute. John, maybe you got to say there, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. I say I'm very much the ultra same view, but we, as Tommy said and yourself said, Peter, in the past, we must make sure that the strive for independence isn't impeded by the SNP or by ALBA. They must both have to basically be held to account for what they're meant to be offering Scotland. We can't allow the March for Independence to be damaged by any political party, and it must be front and centre for Scotland. Independence first, independence second, independent third. And until we achieve that, we're fighting where crumbs on the table that are no worth fighting now. So we must strive for independence. It's as simple as that.
Aye, Tommy.
Sorry, carry on.
Oh, so on you go, John. Sorry, mate. Aye, on you go.
No, sorry, I was just going to go on to the next question for him. If you get it for they say, it's like to get your comments on our British Labour leader in Scotland, Anna Sarwar. He was bigging up Pakistan's independence and congratulating for gaining independence from 1947. I think it's a bit of a brass neck for Mr. Sarwar to be congratulating Pakistan and gaining their independence from British India.
There's no doubt about it, John, that it's an irony that many, many people will be able to see. I used to be friendly with George Galloway, and I used to have a similar irony because George is very rightly and very passionate about Palestine's independence and the right to exist, about Ireland as an island and a united Ireland. He's very passionate about those things, but not with Scotland. There's a blank spot with Scotland's right to be an independent nation, despite the fact we were an independent nation for many hundred years before we entered the British Union. This seems to be an historical blind spot that these people have. The Labour Party, in my opinion, I actually think it's finished completely. I think the cream on the top of its funeral was the expulsion of Ken Loach in the last couple of days. A marvellous film director, trade unionist, advocate for equality and freedom, a man who I've had the pleasure of meeting several times, who epitomises what socialism's all about in terms of his inner humanity and solidarity with the dispossessed. And he's been expelled from the Labour Party. I mean, any party that wants to represent the working classes but can't find a space for Ken Loach is a party that is doomed. Aye. And Sir here is a pale Tory. That's all he is and all he ever will be. So they're finished as a political entity. I've been invited to attend speak at a festival next weekend down in Devon, the Beautiful Days Festival, and I'm going to be speaking at meetings alongside Jeremy Corbyn, and I'm going to be making the point to Jeremy loud and clear. Jeremy, you have had the whip withdrawn. You were the former leader. You got over 40% of the vote in 2017. You scared the shit out of the British establishment because you nearly won the election, but you had the whip withdrawn. Ken Loach has been expelled. Anyone who ever says anything about supporting Palestine gets suspended. What are you waiting on? You have to launch a new party. They have to launch a new party. And if they want that party to have any influence in Scotland, then it must grasp the nettle of the constitutional question. If they were to launch a party that believed in an independent Scotland, then they could win back a lot of people who believe in trade union rights, believe in public ownership of wealth, believe in redistribution, believe in taxing the wealthy and paying for a proper health and education system. These are tenets, these are values, these are principles of socialism which could be popular in Scotland if they launch something that trade union backing and finance and support. But if they come along with a new vehicle that says we're only for a British socialism, I'm sorry, it just won't fly. It won't get off the ground. Those days are gone. I know, because I used to be there. In my early political days, when Tony Benn was my hero in the early 1980s, I believed in a British road to socialism. I believed that we could get a socialist society through supporting a British party in the shape of the Labour Party. It took many years of struggle, the miners' strike, the poll tax struggle. It took many years to convince me that the best way of getting towards my ideal of a society, a socialist society, an independent, modern, democratic republic, was going to be via independence for Scotland. Break the British Union, break imperialism at its very heart. I mean, this is to me, John, being a political left of centre or a socialist means you're anti-imperialist. Anti-imperialism is non-negotiable. You can't be a socialist and an imperialist. You just can't. You cannot square that particular circle. So from my point of view, I cannot understand why you can be a socialist and not want to strike at the heart of imperialism by supporting Scottish independence. Because let's face it, Scottish independence is anti-imperialism.
Yeah.
Very good point, Tommy. No, you mentioned poll tax there, Tommy. So I can't let you go without saying that my old man nearly got the pokey for listening to your advice on poll tax when you were storming on fences and things like that back in the day, right? Talking about getting the pokey and tying it in with somebody else getting the pokey. Craig Murray. I think it's been absolutely disgusting, the treatment that the Scottish Government have given, not just Craig Murray, but a lot of the pro-independence stalwarts. For me, it's all politically motivated for one person's ego. What's your own thoughts on it, if you don't mind, Tommy?
My own thoughts, Peter, are quite widely trailed. I'm a friend of Craig's. I find it honourable to consider him a friend. I'm also even more friendly with Mark Hurst, who was also a victim of these new thought police within the Scottish Criminal and Procurator Fiscal's office, who tried to jail Mark Hurst first because he had dared to produce a wee video for his own YouTube channel, which had limited access, in which he warned that those who had told lies about Alex Salmond and who continued to reject the judicial system's deliberations in relation to a majority jury of women who found that the allegations levelled at Alex Salmond were completely false. In some of the respects, had to be lies. I mean, the biggest scandal of all of this is coming from somebody who was actually prosecuted for perjury. I'm actually thinking to myself, well, where's the perjury as far as that trial is concerned? Because Alex Salmond was found not guilty in 13 of the 14 charges, he's not proven in one of them. But if he was found not guilty in 13 of those 14 charges, somebody was lying.
Well,
and we know who it was, and it wasn't Alex Salmond. And what Mark Hurst pointed out, of course, was that there would be a political whirlwind to be reached in relation to the truth that unfolded in the months and years to come. And for that video, he was charged under the Offensive Communications Act. He had his house raided by police officers. He had phone taken off him, computer taken off him. And for over a year, he had a prosecution hanging over his head. When it appeared in Jedburgh Court, the sheriff listened to what the Crown had to say for over an hour. And then the defence QC for Mark. Move, no case to answer. No, never offered any evidence. He just says, no case to answer. And the sheriff said, I agree. That's how bad it was. No case to answer. That was a political prosecution through and through.
Yep.
And what happened to Craig is very, very similar. What Craig Murray did was no more and no less than what several journalists did. Only difference being is the journalists were on the other side. The journalists were hoping that Alex Salmon was going to be found guilty. They were the cheerleaders for the prosecution. They were doing everything in their power to try and build up the narrative that Salmon was a guilty man, that he was a sexual predator, and all of the connotations that go with that. They couldn't believe it when a jury of ordinary people saw through the bullshit and they found for Alex Salmon. And you would think since then that it was the opposite. You would think Alex Salmon was found guilty. He was found innocent. And yet he has been punished all along by those false charges. And Craig Murray, I'm afraid, has been collateral damage in that. He's been put in the crossfire here, and he now finds himself with his liberty removed in jail for doing nothing other than telling the truth.
Good afternoon, freedom fighters. It's Sunday afternoon, and we're sitting outside Silken Prison in Edinburgh, where Craig Murray's doing an 8-month sentence for a report of the defence case in the Salmon trial. We've been joined today by some activists who've come out who are protesting against the corruption in the Scottish legal system that's allowed Craig to be locked up. We've got Craig's wife is here, a couple of members of the committee, and we've got what's becoming our famous banner out here. Now basically, we've heard over the last wee while that Craig's not going to be putting out in a tag because he's a civil prisoner, and yet he's not getting the benefits that a civil prisoner has. In fact, civil prisoners shouldn't even be held in that building because they don't have the facilities for it. So basically, we're out here just now holding a vigil. We're going to be doing it every Sunday, and as I say, at 2 o'clock every Sunday till 4 o'clock. You're welcome to join us either today or next week, every week until Craig's free. Talk to you later.
It is Scotland's shame that Craig Murray is behind bars. We also have the prosecution of Marion Miller from Glasgow coming up, from Lanarkshire coming up soon, and I hope that we can all get to the Sheriff Court in Glasgow and show solidarity with Marion Miller, because her tweets in relation to the ribbons, the ribbons which show support and recognition of women's suffrage. I mean, come on, are we really in a country now where we are jailing women for showing support and recognition for the history of women's rights and women's struggle? That's what we've reduced ourselves to.
Aye.
It is dangerous stuff, Peter. It's really dangerous stuff. And while the leadership, the toxic leadership of the SNP get away with all this, they are going to undermine support for independence, because a lot of people will tie the two together, and they'll say, an independent Scotland? I don't want to live in an independent Scotland where people's tweets and personal videos get used as a basis to prosecute you. And then, of course, it's now clear with Mark's case, because he's got a malicious prosecution case going on against the Crown Office the police. And I'm confident that it will be upheld. Of course, it's not new. Duff and Phelps. Phelps have got a malicious prosecution, which is going to cost the Scottish taxpayer upwards of £120 million.
Wow.
£120 million. These people were maliciously prosecuted. And I say to you, and I say to everybody in Scotland, who has paid the price of those mistakes? Who in the Crown Office, who in the Scottish Government has put their hand up and said, oh, I'm sorry, we've lost millions for the Scottish taxpayer, we resign? Not one of them. Every one of them are cowards. They should be made to face the consequences of their gross errors and their unacceptable mistakes, and they should be put out of office as far as I'm concerned. The former Lord Advocate is a disgrace, and the fact that he's a judge now frightens me to the core.
It's worrying times, as you say, Tommy. I mean, it leaves everything open to every prosecution. You've got to question every single one. Every judicial review, you've got to question every single one because of the decisions that have been made in recent times. And it's worrying going forward. We don't want it to be detracting for Scottish independence, as you say. We need to address the issues that are presenting themselves. John, have you got anything you want to add on that, mate?
Yeah, no, I agree quite unobservedly. I agree with exactly what you're saying. We cannot damage Scottish independence. What's happening to Craig Murray and everyone else, Marion Miller, is a disgrace, and it shouldn't be allowed to stand. But we can't get we must get the focus on independence. These people must not be. Craig should be in jail. Marion Miller shouldn't be in court. But then we can focus on getting Scottish independence. There's so much traction to be given with what we've got on our side. If you just look at what's over the border with Boris Johnson, Brexit, and everything, and all the lies and corruption that's going on down there, if we can get the focus on that, that will drive people towards Scottish independence. But there's no media vehicle for delivering that to people. It's just folk like us doing our wee bit, trying to draw attention to what's happening over the border and how it affects Scotland, and things like what's happening in NHS in England, privatisation. If you think that's not coming to Scotland, you're daft, because they'll impose it on Scotland as well. And these are all issues that we should be screaming from the rooftops about. The SNP shouldn't be jailing folk and taking the focus off independence. We should be screaming about what's going to happen to the NHS, what's happening to food in the shelves. I mean, look at what's happening in shops. You know, you go into shops and they're taking shit. I mean, I worked in retail as an area manager and a branch manager for many, many years. And I still got an area manager's eye. I get into shops looking at point of sale and shelves, and they went for having empty shelves to take the shelves away now. So there's no empty space. The bulk stacks that used to be there and all these sides, they're all gone. So they're desperate trying to, and freezers full of ice, nothing else but ice in them. Can you get Iceland? It's a joke what they've got in it now. But the media are not wanting. They're in step with the British government. They're covering this up. But it's going to get worse once these rules change again in October.
John, you and I know that the media are hand in glove with the British Union. The media are unionist media. They are enemies of the independence movement. They're enemies of the working class. Let's face it. They're enemies of any change. They stand for the status quo. They stand for the powerful and the rich. That's who they speak for. And I think it's important as we maybe move towards or concluding our chat tonight. I think it's dead important, that point you made about the focus on independence. And therefore, I need to get a shout out for the Hope Over Fear rally in Glasgow on the 19th of September. We've met every year, apart from last year because of the COVID restrictions. Every year since 2014, we've assembled in George's Square to stand proud and say loud and clear, we're still here and we are demanding independence. We have hope in our hearts and we are determined to have a better future for our society. And you know, this particular year, this is the 7th anniversary of the referendum, and it has a particular focus because it's just been announced in the last couple of days, the Grand Orange Order, which I believe is a hate-fueled organisation that tries to promote poison and division and hatred of Roman Catholicism and promote a horrible, horrible agenda that suppresses people's views and rights to practice their religion. They've announced, believe it or not, 18th of September, the actual anniversary of the referendum. They've announced over 30 marches across the country, most of them in Glasgow, calling for people to come out and throw their batons in the air and wave their butcher's aprons. And from my point of view, that means we need to come out the next day and show the difference, contrast. Let them have their hate fest on the Saturday, and we will have an assembly of ordinary people with dignity, hope, and full of human solidarity there in the square from 12 o'clock, live music all day, people standing saying, we want a new Scotland, a fairer Scotland, a more equal Scotland, a Scotland that promotes love and cooperation and solidarity, not hate and inequality and nuclear weapons That's the difference. Now, you've got the Saturday, that's the old Scotland. And then you've got the Sunday, the new Scotland. And that's why I would appeal to all of your listeners, John and Peter, please mark 19th of September in your diaries. Get yourself along to George Square, or as we call it, Freedom Square, given that Glasgow did vote for independence. Please come out on the 19th and make it a huge event.
Thanks very much, Tommy. That brings us nicely towards the end of the show for this evening. It just remains for me to say thanks very much, Tommy. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, and also with the wee bit of technical issue that we had that's delayed the chat for a while. I really appreciate you taking that time out for us, mate. Good luck with everything that you've got coming up. We will promote anything that you or any Yes movement or any Yes group is doing, and we will try our best where we can to attend the majority of them for some sort of representation for recording purposes as well. So anything that's coming up, and if anybody's watching and you think, well, how do I advertise it? Send it to us. We'll put it on our podcast. We'll give you a free advert. We'll put it all the way through and keep it keep people up to speed with what's going on. But thanks sincerely for everybody at Tweet Street. I would like to thank you very much, Tommy. John, I'll leave you a wee chance to say thanks to Tommy. I know, mate.
Yeah, Tommy, thanks very much for your time, sir. And I look forward to seeing you in the coming weeks and months as we march towards independence, because we need people like you. You've got a good, clear, strong Scottish voice that people can relate to, and we need you to keep doing what you're doing, sir.
Thank you very much, lads. And I just want to put a big shout out to the whole independence movement. We have to unite. We're all strong individuals. We're all strong speakers. Sometimes people have got egos. Let's forget the egos. Let's pull people together. Don't be trying to see differences. Let's see what unites us. There's 80-90% of what we're trying to do, we're united. Some people want to rejoin the European Union. Some people want a republic like me. Some people want to come out of NATO. These are all important issues. I'm not saying they're no important issues, but they're absolutely nothing unless we get our independence. So let's unite for our independence first. Then we can have referendums on these questions, important questions that they are. But we need the independence first. So thanks, guys. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tommy. All the best to you, and hope your mum's feeling a bit better soon as well, buddy. All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
This is Tweet Street Satirical Saltire, broadcasting to you for unoccupied Scotland. Amplifying women's voices and saying women won't waste. This is Tweet Street Satirical Saltire, broadcasting to you for unoccupied Scotland. Amplifying women's voices and saying women won't waste.